5 years. That's how long I've been making YouTube videos about music gear, and even though I've been lucky enough to get a synth sent to me free of charge every so often, you might be surprised to know that I've paid for most of the stuff on this channel out of pocket. Thing is, as you and I painfully know, synths ain't cheap and synthin' ain't easy. If you have a synth review channel like I do, there quickly comes a point where you have to start selling gear to be able to finance new things to show in your videos. And sometimes that even means selling synths that you love but can't afford to keep for the greater good. Over the years, I've sold lots of gear that I wish I didn't, and in this video, I'm going to share with you the 5 synths that I regret selling the most, the silly reasons why I sold them at the time, and why I regret selling them so much. Be warned though, I am going to share a lot of poor choice making and cringe-worthy decisions here, so please be kind in your judgments and in your comments. We all make mistakes along the way. If you're already subscribed to the channel, huge welcome back, my friend. If this is your first time here, hi, welcome to the Midlife Synthesist. Let's get started. Number 5. The Moog Subsequent 37. Okay, so this might be a bit confusing for longtime viewers who have seen my Subsequent 37 in a ton of my videos in the background or in the forefront. Well, let me tell you something. I've actually sold it twice and bought it back 3 times. Yeah, I'm hardcore like that. The original Sub 37 was my first analog synth, and it's probably the synth that has made the most profound impact, both in my music and in my life, honestly. After tasting that Moog warmth, the deep bass, the creamy filters, and those roaring leads, and of course the godlike paraphonic mode, nothing was ever really the same. Just a short while after the Sub 37 came out though, the Prophet 8 Rev 2 was announced, and I was all over that thing. Being a fledgling synth head, I did the math, and 8 voices did seem like a much better deal than just 2, so I sold off the Moog to get the Rev 2. Now I know I'm not the only one that's ever done something silly like that, so please let me know in the comments if you ever bought a synth for FOMO and then immediately regretted it. Now don't get me wrong, the Rev 2 is a perfectly good synth, but it wasn't a legendary synth. The Sub 37 on the other hand is, and I quickly realized my mistake, so I set out to buy it back as soon as I could. Now that would not be the last time I would sell my Moog, and that brings me to the story of the next synth on my list. Number 4, the Sequential Pro 3. With its 2 analog and 1 digital oscillator, multimode variable filter, and friendly mod matrix, it has a range of sounds that is truly baffling for a monosynth. Being 3-voice paraphonic, you can even play chords on it, and the onboard sequencer is one of the few sequencers on a synth that has actually been worth the while of learning and using, giving you access to not only sequence notes, but also mod lanes to some crazy step parameter action. I loved it, I truly did. I even declared it the winner in my Subsequent 37 versus Pro 3 video. Thing is, after that video, I needed to let go of a synth to keep this channel going, and it didn't really make sense to keep 2 monos, the Subsequent 37 and the Pro 3. So I sold the Moog for the second time, and all was good, at least for a while. Even though the Pro 3 can really sing, I did miss that Moog sound that only the Subsequent 37 could really give me. And when news that Moog was being sold to InMusic hit, the fear among the crowds was that the USA-made Moogs would surely double or triple in price. In a panic, I scoured the secondhand market for a Subsequent 37, and sure enough, I found one, but problem was, I couldn't really afford it. Now, lucky me, the seller was looking to trade the Pro 3 hand in hand for a Subsequent 37, so brace yourselves, I handed over the Pro 3 for the Subsequent 37. Now don't get me wrong, I stand by my choice to this day, but I do miss the Pro 3 so much. Along with the Polybrute, the UI on the Pro 3 is a sound designer's dream, and it really eliminates the barriers between idea and execution when it comes to creating the exact sound that you have in your mind. I also think that one of the reasons why I'm so fond of the Pro 3 was that it was such a great teacher, and that I was able to learn so much from it with regards to synthesis. Being someone who has invested heavily, so to speak, in gear over the years, the one thing that I've learned out of all of this is that no matter how awesome or feature-packed your synth may be, synths themselves eventually come and go, but what remain with you are the skills that you acquire and refine along the way. That's why it's important to find the right mentors to help learn and develop those skills, and one of the best resources out there to achieve that is today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is a platform that hosts the largest online learning community for creatives, and I used it extensively in the past to learn many of the skills that I needed to start this very YouTube channel. The teachers on Skillshare are creators at the very top of their game, so I was able to learn productivity from the likes of Ali Abdaal, YouTube video creation from Marquis Brownlee, music fundamentals from Jacob Collier, and lots more. Right now, for example, I'm interested in learning how to live stream so I can do live jams and interact with you. And since I don't know the very first thing about live streaming, of course, Skillshare has courses with different teachers to help me out. Offering thousands of classes in an enormous range of categories, Skillshare makes learning easier by offering modular classes for all skill levels with clear objectives in the learning path, so you can learn at your own pace. Skillshare's learning by doing approach means that you'll be taking action and sharing your creations with both your teachers and your peers to gain valuable feedback and inspiration. Start learning that skill you've been sorely needing using this link right here. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or this QR code will receive 1 month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring today's video. Number 3, the original OP1. This little device has been responsible for so much controversy that it's easy to forget the fact that when it initially came out for around $800 or so, there really wasn't anything like it on the market. It looked awesome, it had multiple synths, it could sample, it had an amazing battery life, and a very particular workflow that you either hated or grew to love. Warts and all, the OP1 was a huge part of both my music and this very channel for years, and I still remember it fondly. The reason that I sold it back then was to finance the Moog Matriarch when I got it in my head that I wanted to do full Eurorack and modular, and I thought the Matriarch would be a great starting point. Well, time would prove me wrong, however, as I realized that save for the O-Coast, I much prefer synths that I can save my patches into as presets, and the Matriarch was sold off eventually as well. When considering buying the OP1 again though, the Field had just come out around $2,000, and even though it was undeniably an upgrade, I really couldn't justify spending that much money for something that I kind of already knew and felt I've done all that I wanted to do with. Life's funny that way though, because years later I would go off the deep end and buy the OPXY, which is even more expensive, but thankfully it's been one of the most inspiring machines that I've laid my hands on. And even though the XY pretty much fulfills my tiny hipster workstation needs, I still yearn for the OP1 sometimes, and I really hope that someday it'll make its way back into my synth bag. Now, the final 2 synths on this list are the ones that I missed the most, and the ones that I probably sold for the worst possible reasons. So if you're still here, brace yourselves for some high caliber face palming. Number 2, the Novation Peak. I can barely remember a synth that had everyone so hyped as the Novation Peak when it first came out. It looked sleek, it sounded amazing, it had this modern take on hybrid synthesis, mixing analog and digital at a time where it wasn't as widespread as it is now. It felt like a huge step forward in what synthesizers were going to be in the years to come, and I immediately knew I wanted one. Many months after the release, I managed to score one secondhand, and it was everything that I'd hoped it would be, except for one tiny problem. No keybed. I know, don't laugh. You have to understand, I was pretty early on in my synth journey here, and this was the first keyboardless synth that I had ever owned. So I remember that my main gripe with it was that I always had to hook it up to a MIDI controller or a sequencer. Now, funnily enough, nowadays I'm actually looking more and more for desktop versions of larger keyboard synths since I don't have any more space on my desk right now. And frankly, with stuff like the OPXY or the Oxy 1, I much prefer to sequence things than to have everything have a keyboard now. Anyway, at that time, it was a problem. And so when the Summit came out, I was like, oh, baby, yeah, this is what I was looking for. So I sold it in hopes of buying the new and shiny Summit. Fate once again decided to intervene, and in a funny way of saying no, I got into a big car accident thanks to somebody running over a red light. And since I needed to replace my car, the Summit was relegated to the bottom of the priority list, and sadly, just never came to be. If you have a Peak at home, hold it, cherish it. It might be one of the greatest modern classics of this decade, and nothing really replaces that hole that it leaves behind if you let it fly away. Now finally, at the very top of the list, the synth that I regret selling the most, and for the worst possible reason, the Roland System 8. Midlife Editor here. I just realized that I don't have any actual footage of when I owned the System 8 since I had it way before my YouTube days. Thankfully, a good friend of mine is also one of the world's greatest System 8 players out there, and he was gracious enough to let me use a clip from his YouTube channel. I give you the one and only Gtdandy. Believe it or not, the System 8 was one of my very first synths, and that exactly was its downfall. See, I had no idea what I was doing at the time. I just knew I wanted a digital piano. I'd been saving up for one, so I went to the store to get like a workstation or something, and there it was, green, beautiful, bright. I asked for some headphones and I started playing it, and I was just absolutely blown away by how it sounded. I must have had it for about a month or so, and I was really smitten by both the sound and the intuitive front panel, but I was young and I was foolish, and I started reading forums and criticisms on the System 8 and how it was just digital, a VSD strapped to a MIDI controller. And I believed the haters. I stupidly went along with the idea that this wasn't a good synth just because it wasn't analog. Of course, I had no real experience with synths, and I had no way of knowing that I was playing one of Roland's most interesting outings in the last few years. Also, I didn't know that not all synths had that level of sound quality paired with such a great control scheme. So I ended up going back to the store and returning it for a Roland FA6 and an Ovation Ultranova. It's been years since I played it, but I still miss it deeply, and only ever so often have I really gotten back those goosebumps that the System 8 gave me from sounds coming from other gear. As time went by, I set out to get it back, only to learn that it's pretty much nowhere to be found in Chile. There was a very limited number of units that got here, so it's something of a unicorn. To this day, the System 8 remains one of my favorite synths, and the one that I absolutely most regret letting go of, especially since it was mainly due to a bad case of ignorance, listening to the disgruntled crowd, and FOMO. It taught me a huge lesson though. Forget what everyone else says. Trust your own ears, your own guts. If it sings to you, everyone else's opinion just does not matter. So my message to all of you out there is, before you sell a synth in haste, take a minute, store it somewhere, cool down, wait a few weeks or maybe even a few months. You might realize what a big mistake you're making before you do it, if you're lucky. If you're still here and you enjoyed this video, please remember that you can always support my channel with something as simple as using my affiliate links to get your own gear, clicking the like button, or just leaving me a comment, even if it's just to say hi. If you'd like access to my original music, my multi-sampled instruments, and simply the most awesome Discord community on the face of this earth, head over to Patreon. Everyone is welcome there. If you'd like to see my comparison of the Subsequent 37 versus the Pro 3, be sure to check out this video right here. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, or at least entertaining. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.